Welcome back to American Warrior Radio. We're in here interviewing a retired Army Ranger and 100 other things that he was qualified for, Scott Wilson. And of course, Garen Combe, my co-host, is here. And if you missed the first half, that's all right. We're still active, and we're going to get you a lot of good information. And what we're going to talk about for a little bit is undiagnosed illness. That's kind of faded off the map, as Garen and I were talking about, but it still exists. Now, that's a conundrum of language, undiagnosed illness.
They call it a constellation of symptoms.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Okay.
See, that's why we had you.
Yeah, I've fought like heck for many clients, and finally I discovered the key to success for most of them, and what's even recommended in the 38 Code of Federal Regulations that governs a lot of claim actions that the VA does, is you need, if you think you suffer from undiagnosed illness, or your doctor thinks you suffer from undiagnosed illness, is to put in claims for the symptoms, each and every one of those symptoms. And some of those symptoms can be chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia.
Got it.
Okay, and irritable bowel syndrome.
Got it.
Okay, so there you go. See, Scott's telling us that, and those are caused by exposure to a whole combination of things that we don't get exposed to in the United States of America. There's sand fleas that can really do a trick on you.
Leishmaniasis, and
Well,
that's
that's
still
the
a
sand
problem.
fleas, yeah.
Right, that's a problem with our Iraq and Afghanistan vets.
Also Somalia.
Yeah,
For
okay,
sure.
good.
Now, the Gulf War vets that you're in that generation. Again, folks, we're talking like 20 years ago.
Yep.
So it's
That was 1990.
See,
So
it's-
that's
yeah.
like 23 years ago.
Wow.
And we're still trying to develop and get the VA to recognize, because this isn't a small population. This is a very large population of veterans.
This
that were
was
affected.
before the drawdown started, or really started. There was a small drawdown before it, but this was really at the height of our military. That was actually a point where the military was at its largest.
I want to give you a couple. If you're a Gulf PGW-1, Persian Gulf War 1
90
veteran,
to 91.
Yep. If you're a PGW vet, here's the top 10 environmental concerns of Gulf War I veterans. This is what may have caused or led to these exposure concerns. Protective gear or meds and alarms, 82%. Diesel, kerosene, petrochemicals, 80%. Oil well fire smoke, 67%. Local food, 64%. Insect bites, 63%. And it just goes back, it just goes from there. What the striking thing to me is they've identified all these areas of concern, but they have been unwilling or unable, and I'm thinking it's unwilling, to actually assign, as you were talking during the break, Glenn, a diagnostic code or a set of criteria that they can actually point to and say this is ICD code whatever.
And Garen, I believe you're correct. Is they're not unwilling to. We went through the Persian Gulf War registry, and they keep beating us up. They have over 600,000 people that they've gone through for this. So that's a huge case study in medical terminology.
Absolutely.
So they haven't done it. That's bigger than they ever did with Vietnam and Korea.
And the Institutes of Health and several other governmental agencies are responsible for reporting back to Shinseki's office, the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, what they find, what their findings are, and whether or not they're able to specify. So Glenn, as a senior claims worker, and I was about to call you examiner, because you really do. You examine their claims and help propel them through the system.
We got to help the VA do their job, because they don't always do it right.
So you were talking about if you're a PGW-1 vet and you have these undiagnosed illness symptoms like Scott was just mentioning, what should they do again?
Well, first, again, you should come to our office out in Viera and Bravo building on the first floor. Look for the arrows on the wall. You find us easy enough, and let us help you file the appropriate claims. We can throw in the word undiagnosed or unexplained illness. Here's the drawback to that. Many if you go see a doctor, maybe not so much in the VA world, but Scott can talk to that better than I will. But you go see a doctor and they want to put a label on it so that they can then find some kind of treatment plan that matches that label based on their medical training. Particularly if you're going to see a private doctor, because they've got to put down a diagnostic code so the insurance company will pay them something. So it's just mind-boggling to call something an undiagnosed and unexplained illness, and then you just a minute ago read what they have published as causes for many of the causes that can cause these illnesses. And you heard Scott talk about the problems he has due to his tour in the I guess you were in the sand pit.
Among other places. I was
okay.
also in Somalia and Haiti
Okay.
and Bosnia. So
Wow, okay.
And the thing,
Places not known for their sanitary conditions.
Exactly.
You know, the burn pits and just the general state of affairs and environmental toxins, as well as the things you were forced to ingest in order to prevent some sort of a biological
Yes.
or chemical attack. And while I was working on my degree down in the Fort Hood area at the University of Texas, I helped a lot of troops process back from theater. And it was amazing how many of them were affected with illnesses they couldn't define. You know, it was more than a runny nose or
Right.
scratchy skin
Yes.
and stuff like that. So it's really important, folks. I don't care if you're listening to us in Texas or North Dakota, wherever. If you are a PGW-1 vet and you are suffering symptoms that maybe your family doctor or maybe you're being seen by the VA and they're not able to pinpoint or say, hey, this is what's wrong with you, then you need to pursue a claim. You must, or it's not going to go forward. I mean, it's that simple.
absolutely correct.
Well, getting back to you, Scott, for a moment. So you experienced some of these things, and I just wanted to share real quick. There is no test to confirm exposure to these dispersions, these nerve agents or whatever may have been in the air. Okay, everybody remembers Camisea. That was a major
Yeah,
area.
I was actually there, and unfortunately, I actually have pictures of myself and the UNSCUM chief, which was United Nations chemical weapons chief, who later came out and said there was no such thing as WMDs, and we're holding mustard gas canisters and weapons because, again, we were there for security and detachment, and he and I are standing there with mustard gas and sarin gas, things like that, before it was blown up. So he said that it wasn't.
Knowledge.
Again, he said there was nothing there because he went and made it nuclear now to say, so he could come back and say that there was nothing there and no cause for any further action or nothing to set us to allow us to be there. He changed a political view, he changed the mind, whatever it was, that's fine. And realize these are also DOD property. The DOD has a copy of all of my pictures, and they always have. Because when I went, I had to have permission to actually take a camera with me. So, I mean, there's certain things you had to have permission for at that time because they didn't want these things out. So the DOD has a copy of all of my pictures. I have albums sitting at the house. Anybody that wants to look at them, I'd be glad to show them to them. I mean,
Well, it's interesting because this just really kind of parallels what's happening, especially in the Iraq theater. Now, Afghanistan, I know we've got incinerators, multi-million-dollar incinerators that are not being used. Check this out, people. If you get the Air Force Times, there's a great article recently about that.
Yeah, they haven't got a contract for somebody to operate them, huh?
Is that bizarre? So they're burning the stuff out in the burn pit still.
Yeah.
Well, we have heard and had testimony on American Warrior Radio from combat vets that were over in theater in Iraq that would make complaints about teary eyes, runny nose, skin rashes, and what have you. And then the environmental crew from the Army or whatever would come out and place this collector device to gauge how much pollution there was. They would tuck it away in some little area that was not anywhere near where these guys were actually standing post.
Well, and just before
ridiculous.
the show started, I read part of an article that said, and the VA says that that those effects, the watery eyes and the coughing and all of that are temporary, that they go away.
yes, of course.
It's not a long-term problem.
Exactly, but that they're only talking about the administrators when they have those issues. Then they go away because they were never there,
Well,
or
exactly,
something like
yeah.
that.
You got it, man.
You know, realize that I was, at part of my time is I actually went up with the Kurds when they were being gassed for medical assistance. They were grabbing medical people that were in the rear and bringing them up there to be able to help out. So what gassing did we get? Then we went back to Khobar Towers, and I was actually in the building that was blown up. I was gone from there quite a while by that time, but when you would go out to chow in the morning, you would actually walk from your building was put into a lower level of a parking garage, and you would walk out and it would be like raining, but it would be all black. But I'd also been out to survey, because I had NBC training, to survey at the wells. So I was out in, pouring rain and heavy sludge of wells, just like all these people that work in the southwestern United States. They know what these wells do, just as well as the people that work in the coal mines. They know about black lung. They know, we know what this stuff has done, and we know what it's done could do to our troops. So why are they not following suit?
Again, specific exposures of concern. This list is long.
Very long.
Depleted uranium, nerve gas, oil well, fire smoke, pesticides, pyrodystamine, bromide, whatever the heck that is.
That was our PB tabs that we were taking daily for nerve agent. So your atropine injectors would work if you got nerve agent poisoning.
And you didn't get a choice.
No.
It wasn't like, if you want to take this, you can. You were ordered.
Right. That
was a
and you
direct
were
order.
also given ciprofloxacin, which was the antibiotics, which you took every 11 3/4 hours, so you didn't miss a dose. And then you had, if you had a GI disturbance of any sort,
gastrointestinal gut problem.
Yep. So you just took it again. You took another one in the middle and didn't worry about your hour. It's just to take care of it. And I was given it when I got a little infection in my leg years later, and it turned into MRSA. And I almost lost my right leg in October, about Halloween of 2003, because of it.
Well, it seems to me if they're giving you all these medications, we'll just call it as a general rule or a general term, they're giving you all these medications, somebody must have been afraid that there was something to protect you from.
Oh, absolutely.
And then why now are we not admitting that it didn't really exist, or it was only temporary? I said this before out there, folks, and I'll say it again. To me, the burn pits and these other exposures in the Gulf War are the son of Agent Orange. This is just how the history on Agent Orange went.
Yes, sir.
Deny. Oh, maybe a little bit. We'll recognize one or two, and then they keep adding and keep adding and keep adding. It's a pretty significant list of things recognized to be caused by herbicide exposure. And they keep adding. I mean, it's only 2 years since the Secretary added the last 3. And so we're not there yet with these problems, and it's coming. I can see it coming.
And that's an excellent point, because all you listeners out there, you really do. I tell you this often enough about other subjects, but this is some way you can make an impact. Yeah, you can have the bumper sticker on your car, I support the troops, but I don't care if you've been in combat. I don't care if you've ever even been in the military. You know that this is happening. Glenn just recited historically how this has come about through the Agent Orange. Let's just keep it at that simple. But you know what? Go back further than that. Go back to World War II, where we were doing all these nuclear tests. How many thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of men and some women were exposed and subsequently succumbed to radioactive illnesses? Okay?
Yeah, with little to no protection at all. I think maybe darkened glasses. I've talked to clients who were aboard ship, and they out in the Bikini Islands when they did some nuclear test out there, and they didn't have anything. They had them come stand out on the deck and watch.
Yeah, it's you can be an observer today. Oh, yeah. Great!
Oh,
thank you very much. No doubt. Even if you were in a lead ship, you weren't gonna escape that. My point is, that's World War II. God knows what happened in Korea. Vietnam, Agent Orange, and like you said, the son of Agent Orange. Now we've got the PGW vets with this quote-unquote undiagnosed illness crap, these constellation of symptoms. But that's why I'm telling you that Shinseki, who was a general in the Army, 4-star general, he's doing a pretty good job. He opened the door for the environmental toxins, and I'm hopeful that he doesn't get squeezed out from all this VA claims backlog, which I know he can have a more impactful or forceful hand in dealing with that, but he's done some remarkable things, probably more to his credit than all his predecessors combined.
Well, I'm in agreement with you on that, and to me, the analogy I always liken to is he's up there as the captain of the ship, if you will, and the ship is this huge oil tanker. You know how many miles it takes to move that oil tanker off the course it's on? Many miles. Well, the VA is a big bureaucracy, a big oil tanker, and even though he's implementing lots of things that are changing the mindset, it's going to take time, and hopefully he can stay around long enough to get those institutionalized within the VA, to get a culture that actually wants to help our veterans and actually wants to fix the problems for them, actually wants to get them their just and due disability caused by their service to our country.
And now, again, we're talking with Scott Wilson, a retired Army veteran, of PGW vet, Ranger, among many other things he did for our country. You suffer a lot of the PGW undiagnosed illnesses, the symptoms, and you're being treated for those. Since you got out of service, generally speaking, how is the VA treated you? I don't want to talk about the whole issue right now that we talked about before we went on the air, because we got to hold you back for a different show on that.
Right.
But generally speaking.
Medical care, up until very recently, I believe is some of the finest care in the world. I realize I was in the medical profession
So you
for a
would
lot
know
of
a lot
years. And maybe I know too much to too little. To go back to the day I retired, I went to talk to schools and colleges, and they were telling me it was going to take about 10 to 12 years to get back to doing what I was doing the day I retired. And I just said that after my retirement, it was just too old, and I didn't have the wherewithal, especially with bad PTSD at the time and other issues, that I just couldn't see myself going back to school. So I decided, I hadn't gotten anything. We didn't wear gloves unless we were in surgery or cleaning up messes. So, I thought that was a pretty good thing, and I would change career paths and ideas. And I was having a lot of problems focusing and doing other things, so I went a totally different career path.
Which, briefly mentioning that, your wife, you have a company that you're the president of. You're like a non-acting partner of it, but tell us a little bit about that.
My company is Space Coast Technologies and Services Incorporated, and it's spacecoasttech.com, and we are an electronics company. If you can think of it, electronics, from websites and marketing, which is my wife's end of the deal, which is designsus.com. And she is wonderful. She handles all of that. She's also my accounting department. And we do computer repair, virus removal. We do doctor's offices for keeping your electronic medical records and keeping them safe so nobody gets in and sees what they are or lets them out to the public like you hear all the time. We work with restaurants and department stores for their point of sales. We also do home entertainment systems and big businesses for their entertainment systems. We also do closed-circuit television systems for security, where you can watch them right here on your special iPhones and your wherever remotely.
And I have to mention that you really do, you and your wife have a very giving and generous spirit. You volunteer. Actually, she manages ABATE, American Bikers Aim Towards Education, their website. So you guys give a lot back to the community.
Yeah, we believe in volunteer. And, my dad helps us a lot and does a lot of volunteer work, and our children are wonderful. They volunteer. My wife and I have been married for 19 months now, and she brought them up with a great volunteer spirit, and they love volunteering for AVET.
Yes,
because
you do. You help manage our website as well, so thank you.
They love getting out there, and they've done a couple of picnics. My daughter was just at Daytona for the race in the booth, and she went out and did some special things and got to see a lot of special people in working at the booths and volunteering, and she just loves it. She brought some friends in, and everybody enjoys volunteering when it's for a good cause, and the AVET project is a great cause for us.
Now, you also, like I said, you have several other hats. I know Glenn's going to touch on one subject, but what's this whole ALR business? I'm a member of your chapter, but tell me, because you're the director.
Right, I'm the director of American Legion Riders at post number 163 at Ugalli, Florida. That's 1 block north of Aurora Road on US 1, and we're a very active American Legion Rider group. We're fairly new, we're just over 2 years old. And our purpose is for helping veterans in the community. Our main charities are the Avante Nursing Home, which is right behind Holmes Regional, and we have approximately 13 or 14 men and women that are veterans there, and we do everything from taking them to Hooters to get them out to eat for lunch. We do that. We try to do that about once a quarter. We bring them in pizza. We're getting ready to, in September or October, we don't have a quite firm date yet, we're going to do a little bike show there and bring the bikes out, and they're all going to come outside. And
So, Scott, how's somebody become a member of your chapter of the American Legion Riders?
as long as they are qualified for periods of time for the American Legion, they join the American Legion, or if they're already American Legion member, they can transfer to post number 163. And as long as they have a motorcycle that's over 350 cc's and have insurance for the motorcycle, they're welcome to join us and get involved. And we're about 50 members strong, and we're
growing.
Growing and constantly doing things in the community to help out.
And also understand you're associated with the Jewish War Veterans
Yes.
Association or chapter, I guess,
Yes.
whichever it is.
Right now, I'm the senior vice president of the Jewish War Veterans of Brevard County.
Great.
And
Another great group of guys and gals.
I mean, you basically, if you know nothing more about us, you'll probably see that I think all of the golf carts out at the VA clinic were all donated by the Jewish War Veterans, and you'll see plaques all over the VA. And we do things like give most of the bus tickets for the stand downs, and we give money to other groups through our poppy drives, and we do poppy drives a couple times a year.
And let me say,
And
the
we
Jewish
give-
War
yeah.
vets have contributed to AVET projects, programs, and services.
And we give all of our money that we get from our poppy drives locally. We don't give them to out of the area because it's donated by people in this area. We believe in giving it back to people in this area.
There's one other issue I want to bring up with you,
Sure.
but folks, I almost forgot. If you have never won an AVET project prize pack, today is your day. Call. What's the number, Glenn?
631-1300.
321-631-1300. First caller, Vince will get your name and information, and we'll send you out an AVET project prize pack. So get on the phone right now.
It's nice. Get with it.
It's free.
Yay! Free is always good.
So what's the other topic we were going to chat with Scott about?
Yeah, Scott, you were mentioning to us earlier off the air, and I was very excited to hear about it. And this will certainly affect the people in our veterans in Brevard County and their families, and that's trying to get a USO established in the Orlando airport.
Yes, there's a new initiative, and I'm one of 2 representatives to Brevard County for a USO at the Orlando Airport, MCO. And there used to be one several years back, but there were some financial questions or something else, and we're being sort of shepherded by the Tampa USO, which has the Tampa USO, the Fisher House in Tampa, and it also has a facility at the Tampa VA Hospital. And the USO isn't only for airports. There's all sorts of different things that they actually do. But as soon as the charter goes through and we get a little bit more information going, and right now they're working on a charter, they're working on the space for the airport, we're going to keep going. We want to try to make this the Tampa in Central Florida, to bring something to Patrick, to bring something to the Navy base, to the Coast Guard base, and bring it to the VA clinic. to get everything for Central Florida for the USO.
And the USO certainly does an outstanding job of supporting our troops.
You bet.
Yes.
I've used the USO. Families are welcome to use it of military
Yes.
members or
Yep.
veterans. As long as you got an ID card, you're going to be welcome there. They're an awesome organization. Urge you to support them. But folks, I need your support too. We've got the 715th MP Company over in Afghanistan for the third time, and we need your support. We've got to send out a bunch of our EEBs, our care packages to them. We've shipped out a lot, but we still need funding, okay? Until we get Congressman Posey's bill through on the National Defense Authorization Act, which you can call Senator Rubio or Senator Nelson. Tell them to make sure the NDAA goes through. Page 578 does not get touched, so we can ship and other nonprofits can to our troops, okay? But we need money, so go to avetproject.org. I'm going to make it straight to you. avetproject.org. Click on the PayPal button. It's been an awesome. Thank you, Scott, for joining us
you.
on American Warrior Radio
Thank you
today.
for inviting me.
It goes by so quick, folks, but we're asking you to join us again here on American Warrior Radio next week. And as always, Glenn,
Don't forget, thank Yvette and thank Scott for being here today and serving
Thank
our
you, Glenn.
country.